Hello and welcome to MMA Crips Fighting Talk. On today's show, we'll be discussing all things TUF 20, as Paige VanZant is out of the Ultimate Fighter 20. Bec Rawlings is accused of domestic violence by former partner Dan Hyatt, and Ireland's Aisling Daly is off to Las Vegas to try out for TUF 20. Okay, joining me on today's show, as always, Mr. Greg Marshall. Welcome to MMA Crips Fighting Talk, Greg.
All right, buddy.
Okay, let's get things started with round one, Greg. Paige VanZant out of the Ultimate Fighter 20. Recently turned 20-year-old Paige VanZant will not be appearing on the Ultimate Fighter 20 due to the UFC's requirements that all contestants must be of legal drinking age. Obviously, Paige does not meet that requirement and will indeed miss out on her chance to claim UFC gold. There is good news to this though, Greg. Paige has signed a straight contract with the UFC, so all is good that end. The thing that does bother me, though, is the reason it was announced just now, instead of 3 months ago, when all the women were signed from Invicta. What do you make of that, Greg?
Well, it's good that she's got the contract and that, but then they've all got contracts anyway for this season. Every one of them goes straight onto a UFC contract at the end of the season anyway. It seems a little strange to have her pull out for this drinking reason for being under the age of 21. I'm not sure, but surely someone's been under 21 before in TUF, have they not?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later on. There's been Jake Matthews on the Ultimate Fighter Nations, Canada versus Australia. He's 19 years of age. And Patrick Iodice from the Smashes, if you remember. He was 19, and so too was Jake Matthews. But I've been checking up on the legal age of drinking in Canada and Australia. Legal age of drinking in Australia is 18. And in Canada, depending on where you live, some places it's 18 and some places it's 19. So, a little bit tricky there. But when you look at that though, Greg, you've got to sort of feel a little bit sorry for her because she is 20. Now, if this was like just in a different piece of land, you know, if she was on a different land, she would be able to compete, not a problem.
Yeah. Well, how old was Kelvin Gastelum when he won it?
Is he about 21?
He's only 22 now.
I think he was 21. It was only last year, that, wasn't it, though, Greg?
Yeah. It depends what time of year it was.
Year and a half ago. I'm sure he was 21. I'm positive. He could have been 20, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I don't understand why it makes a difference when all she does is just not drink. As long as she's not drinking alcohol, I don't see what the problem is. It sucks for her in many ways because this helps her to get a name as well because this goes out on TV. So all these other girls are going to be building a name for themselves during this season, and Paige is going to miss out on all that. So it kind of sucks.
We're talking about the alcohol here, Greg. Right, the alcohol is the problem. So, because there's alcohol in the house, she's not allowed in there. Now, parents have alcohol in the cupboards, the cabinets.
Exactly.
And if you go to a restaurant, there's alcohol, there's wine, there's being served, it's on the table. Now, that's your choice to drink that. So, I don't understand it by the UFC, to be honest with you. Now, they've got two choices. They can let people in with the alcohol and say, it's your choice if you drink it. You know, you're breaking the law, not us. In a way, they are supplying it, so it is pretty tricky. They are supplying the alcohol, but they're supplying it for the adults, the ones who are of drinking age. And it should be up to Paige not to drink this stuff. You know,
it just seems really silly because she can basically do anything apart from drink. She can she can get married, she can have kids, she can vote, she can do all these things, but she can't drink. But they're using that as a reason to put her out the show. It just seems silly. They allow her to fight. They allow her to fight, but they won't allow her to be in a house where there's alcohol. That's just crazy.
Well, from what I understand, Greg, I don't know if it's the same in Scotland, but I'm sure in this country, if you have a meal and you're with an adult, you can have a drink when you're 16. Just one, I think, with your meal.
You're entitled in this country. I believe it's the same in England. You can have a drink anytime you want if you're in the privacy of your own home. Doesn't matter what age you are. it's up to your parent just basically to see how you go. And it's just, I know the French are very much like that because they drink wine from when they're born. It's a common thing for kids to drink wine with their evening meal.
Well, it still leaves the question, Greg. Why did the UFC put her in the house? Because John Jones wasn't allowed, I think it was the Ultimate Fighter 8, what Bader won. He wasn't allowed to enter that tournament because he was too young to go into the house. Now, they knew that she was 19 when they signed her from Invicta, so why even announce that she's going into the house? Now, the only reasoning for this was they was contemplating scrapping alcohol in the house, or they was just going to allow her in anyway with the alcohol there. Now, they've obviously had a little discussion about this, I'm assuming, and come to the conclusion it's probably better to have alcohol in the house for more drama, possibly. Do you think that's what might have been discussed there, Greg?
You're probably right. I think they've realised, like, the only season they did where there was really no drinking was the live season. It wasn't over the top like the rest of them, and it was more based around the fights, and the ratings sucked for it. So I think they need a bit of a drama just to keep it up. I don't really think they do myself, but obviously the ratings tell you that they do. So they probably decided that alcohol needs to be in the house, so you can get a few of these people with loosened strings to do their own thing.
Does this hurt Paige in a way? Do you think this hurts her career, not going into the house, Greg?
That's kind of what I was saying at the start there. I think it does hurt her in many ways because the rest of these girls are all going to be able to build a name for themselves. People get familiar with them. They'll pick a favourite amongst them. And she's kind of missing out on all that because of that. And it's unlike other seasons of TUF where only usually a few of the guys will get into the UFC at the end of it. All of these girls are going to the UFC at the end of it, every one of them. And they're building a new division from it. But she's going to be the one that nobody knows. And it sucks for her.
Well, it's not just that, Greg. It's missing out on the title opportunity too.
Yeah.
She was given a title opportunity by the UFC to be, not just that, just to make history too. She was about to make history. You know, if you're in there, we know in fighting anything can happen. Yeah, she's not the favourite. She's young. She's 3-1 record. But like I say, she trains with Team Alpha Male. That's the camp of well-rounded guys. You know what I mean? And if she's training with those guys, because obviously she's probably around the same size. So, you know she's getting the best training. She's getting the best, you know, especially grappling training anyway. So I would have really liked to have seen her get her opportunity. And if she didn't make it, she didn't make it. And off something so stupid like you mentioned, just off alcohol in the house, which you might not even drink, you know, like you're not allowed to drink the alcohol, Page. You know, if you do, you're removed from the house. You know, they could have put those restrictions on her. You know, let her make her own choices. They always say, Dana White always comes in and says, one of the reasons we put you in here and put alcohol in here is so we can see what you like. We can see your personalities. Well, you're not got to see Paige's personality now. You don't know if you can trust her. What are you going to do when she signs with the UFC in a year's time and she's, you know, had a couple of fights and she's out drinking? You don't know if she's going to be rowdy, twatting people in a bar, doing an eyelash roll for him on somebody. Do you know what I mean? It's true.
Yeah.
Just put a bit of trust in her. And to me, it's a stupid rule.
And you're right. She's lost out on the chance to become the first ever UFC women's strawweight champion, and that's harsh for the sake of someone not being allowed to do it just because there's going to be alcohol in the house. It just seems bad.
So as things stand right now, she's right at the end of the pack when it comes to all the women now because they're getting the recognition now. She's at the end of the pack. You know, she's going to struggle now. She's going to probably start in the undercard, start winning some fights, you know, making a name for her the hard way. And it's sad to see, but it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on over to round 2, Greg. Bec Rawlings, accused of domestic violence and mental torment. Pretty crazy, this one. But I spotted it while I was nosing on Facebook. Now, last week, former partner and current husband of Bec Rawlings, Dan Hyatt, posted several accusations on his Facebook account regarding his past relationship with Bec Rawlings, formerly Bec Hyatt, of course. Here's what Dan had to say. I, too, was a victim of domestic violence during my relationship with Bec. I was slapped, punched, kicked, kneed, spat on, mentally tormented and abused and even baited into suicide, more times than I can care to remember. The riot went on to express in detail things that his wife would say to him, such as, why don't you just kill yourself already? and you deserved the beatings your father gave you. He became to know she would encourage their son to join in and call his father a piece of shit, daddy dickhead, and dumb dog. Now, Dan has obviously been accused of domestic violence himself towards Bec Rawlings last year. Pretty public as well. Bec's pretty much talked about it in and everywhere. What do you make of Dan's comments there, Greg?
It's difficult to know. You don't really know the situation at all. But looking in from the outside, it just looks like he's trying to find a way to kind of get his name back because he's been widely criticised. Aye, right. But I mean, his kind of reputation, because he's been accused of beating a woman, basically, abusing her. So he's trying to find a way. Like I say, at least from the outside, it looks like he's just trying to say that there's two sides to this story, and she beat me as well, and she did this as well. Whether she did, I don't know. One way or the other. And,
come on, Greg, give an opinion. Do you think she did?
I wouldn't be surprised if she'd done something.
You
to
see
be
the
honest.
tattoos.
At the end of the day, she's not a shy wallflower or that. She's a brash woman who likes to talk shit and fight and stuff.
See, it's interesting though, Greg, because it's like, what do you consider domestic violence? Someone carrying her in a corner, getting hit, or him hitting her and then her getting fed up and striking back possibly, or like giving shit back to him? Do you know what I mean? So how do you weigh it all out? Is it just her evening the score, or is she giving domestic abuse back if these comments are true?
Exactly, it's difficult. She could have been going through all kinds of shit, not just getting beaten, mental fucking shit or whatever. And there comes a point when somebody snaps and fights back, and I wouldn't be surprised if she has done that at some point. Does it make her? Is it right? Probably not. But would I blame her? Not at all. I wouldn't blame her for doing that at all. It's a tough situation.
Well, let's look into the reasons, Greg, why he could have said this. Now, it was only last week Will Chope was fired from the UFC for domestic violence. Now, funny enough, 2 days later, he makes this statement. It seems pretty, Mac to me that he's sort of set this up to derail a tough career, with her going into the house. I bet he thinks, oh, she's going into the house, perfect time. This guy, Will Chope's just been cut for domestic violence. It's still going on now. Will Chope's trying to get his job back. He's posting blogs for him and his ex-girlfriend. So it's still big in the news, even this week. And this, it's looking to me like he's literally set out to ruin her career personally. That's the reason why he said this. And because of his timing as well, it makes it look a little bit false to me. Because if he was so concerned, she mentioned this last fucking year about him. She's talked about it non-stop in podcasts and whatnot, about how he used to treat her, spit on her, whatever, just kick her on the floor. And I can't fully recount what he did, obviously. It was a long time ago. I could look into it, but his timing just makes it look like he's bitter because she's moved on with Ben Wall. It makes it look like he's just trying to ruin her career and get her sacked from the UFC. Would you agree, Greg?
I hadn't thought of it from that situation. I hadn't really thought of it, the Will Chope thing, but you could be right there. Maybe it is something to do with that. Maybe he's trying to just find another way to get her back, kind of thing, to make it look like she's done something bad, so that maybe Dana White goes, oh, we can't have her in the house if she's done that kind of thing. So it may well be a revenge kind of thing, but.
Yeah, because I read into it last year. He was like, I still love you, Bec. I want this, I want that. I made mistakes and whatnot. And obviously, she has moved on with Ben Wall now. It's been nearly a year now since they've been split. I think it's been 9 months. So there's no chance of getting back together now, pretty much. Things have sort of moved on. And while it is sad to see, it's like there's no other choice now. It's either he has to move on himself or he stays there and he gets his satisfaction, and his satisfaction could be seeing her fall. Yeah, because this woman he used to beat on the floor and downgrade, so you're nothing, nobody wants you. And now all of a sudden, in what 4 months' time, she's already pretty well known. Bec fucking Aya is pretty well known. Obviously, she's changed her name to Bec Rawlings now. But once she's been in that TUF house and she leaves there, shit, she's well known in Australia, pretty much in America a little bit too. But she's been well known worldwide once the Ultimate Fighter's finished, and I think that eats at him a little bit personally.
I think you're probably right there as well. There's clearly no going back for any relationship there between them. Maybe he still holds out hope, but if he did, he's done the wrong thing by saying what he said. But it doesn't look like there's anything there from what I'm seeing from the outside anyway.
Now, Bec did release her own statement in response to these claims by Dan. Here's what Bec wrote. Recently, some comments have surfaced from my ex-husband regarding our turmoil relationship, which involved both physical and emotional abuse, which ended in 2013. These comments were clearly made in an attempt to derail my career and reputation in the sport of mixed martial arts, and I'm extremely disappointed that our private matters have been made public. While I recognise that I too have made mistakes in my life, I worked hard to become a better person, mother, and professional athlete. Thus, I will not let this discourage me on my path to success. I appreciate the support shown to me by my teammates, coaches, management team, and the UFC. And I look forward to competing on The Ultimate Fighter later this year. There's a few things in there, Greg, what interests me. The first one is, she says she's extremely disappointed about our private matters being made public. Now, I sort of can't sympathise with that, Greg, because like I mentioned, she's on these podcasts saying he beat me on the floor, he did this and that. You know, I love someone to smack him, you know, and she's a leader for a domestic violence group or something like that. How can you say that?
I think so.
That's fair. She thanks the UFC for their support, so the UFC must have been in contact with her.
Yeah, they must have spoke to her in some way about it anyway.
Well, Dan, if you're listening, it's like it didn't work, buddy. Sorry. See, we don't know if it's true, Greg, personally. We don't. Yeah. But he's, just because of his timing, like I mentioned, he's left it. It looks like he's bitter. It looks like she's going into the house. He's bitter. He wants revenge. Like I say, you have two choices: move on, or still, wallow in it. And when you wallow, there's no chance of getting that back. He wants to attack now. He wants to get revenge. And because of his timing, because she's going into the tough fights, because of this world choke thing just happening, it makes him look like a liar. If he is or not, only he knows and only she knows. And sometimes, like I said though, Greg, it's like you don't know if they actually know themselves. Like, she might have thought she was defending herself. She might have just had enough and felt it was just. What she's doing, if she was doing that, saying these nasty things. If he wasn't doing nothing, then it's sort of like abuse. People are like, oh, that's mental abuse. That's torture. Yeah. It's a tricky thing. I don't really want to get into it. I'll let you listeners decide. Obviously, I'm just throwing out a few facts here. But as far as I'm concerned, bad timing there, Dan. And looks like Bec's gonna have a nice career in the UFC.
It should be something they keep behind closed doors.
It really should. Thing. I was disappointed. Like, I spoke to Bec myself, and I didn't even dream of asking her anything like this. I listen to these guys. They're like, "What happened? Give us the details. What he used to do." And it's like, "Geez, come on, man. This is personal business. Keep the fuck out of it."
If either of them want to deal with it, then they should be going to the police and getting it dealt with that way.
I wouldn't have even talked about it today. I wouldn't even made this one of our subjects. But because Bec's been so open about it, and she is a leader of domestic violence group, and he has come out and made it public, and there is top news sites like bjpen.com and whatnot covering it. It's important to talk about it now, and give our side of the story and see what we think about it. So there we go. Okay, with that, let's move on to round 3 and our final round. Aisling Daly set to try out for TUF 20. Now, if you are not aware of Ash the Bash Daly, she trains out of Straight Blast Gym, Ireland, with the likes of Conor McGregor, Gunnar Nelson, and Cathal Pendred. Ash holds a pro record of 14-5 and has fought for some major mixed martial arts promotions outside of the UFC, with the likes of Cage Rage, Bellator, Invicta, and Cage Warriors. Greg, how much do you know about Ash the Bash Daly?
I think she'll be. I think if she tries out for TUF, she'll get in anyway, because I think she's legit. I think she's quite often fought at 125, if I'm not wrong. So 115 might be a good home for her, but it might be tough for the season of the Ultimate Fighter, because usually you find a lot of these guys come in a weight class above where they usually fight, so the weight cutting is not such an issue while they're fighting there.
Yeah,
that might be our only issue, I would think, but I think she'll do well in the show. If she gets in. I mean, she's beaten Jessica Ai before, who until the other week there was ranked, I think, number 4 at 135. So she's legit. She can fight.
Well, it's not just that. You mentioned that she's been competing at 125. Yeah, she had a bout against Rosie Sexton, didn't she, at Cage Warriors?
Yeah.
Just looking at the Sherdog reporting her, she is at 116 now, which is obviously 115 strawweight. So it looks like they've got her officially down as a strawweight now. So I'd actually watched on the New Year Cage Warriors. Let's have a look who she was fighting. I can't remember the name too well, but fuck, that was a cracking fight. She
Carla
looked
Benitez.
Carla Benitez, that was the one. What a fight, Greg. What a fight. Now, yes, I was a sado, staying in on New Year's, watching fights. But geez, was it worth it to watch that? Whoa, what a fight. Seriously. Now, the thing about Ashton Daly, she, like, not only is she well-rounded, because she's very well-rounded, and let me tell you something, once she gets you on the ground, she's such a good grappler. Very good at grappling. The stand-up, yeah, a little bit of work on, but she just brings this aggressive, ferocious pace to the fights, Greg. It's like, as soon as that bell rings, she's coming at you, and she likes to brawl. Like the good old Irish way, you know. She likes to throw down. She can take a shot. She likes to give it. And now there's a lot of tactical fighters in this sport. Like, you look at your kickboxers, they don't like getting in brawls, you know. They like to pick the shots, you know, with the combos. They don't like it when somebody's in your face fucking throwing fucking punches and elbows at you, you know. And that's what she does. And then she shoots in for the takedown, just full of aggression, sheer entertainment. I absolutely love Ashton Daly. She was actually one of the first women I watched. Even before these Gina Carano's and whatnot, I actually watched Ashton Daly. She was like one of the first women I knew. Like, I really, really wanted her. I mentioned this to you, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks back. I was like, I really hope Ashton Daly tries out. Yeah. I really want to try out. I think she, not only does she fit the bill, like, personality-wise, she's very respectful. She's not like,
Connor.
yeah. She's, very polite and gentle. I remember I showed her one of my old Dirty Zen May Corner videos, and she actually shared it and said, check out this new show in town and whatnot, and shared it about for us. It was really decent of her. So, really happy to see her try it for the house. Now, apparently, Greg, she's just got back from Portland, Oregon, Straight Blast Gym. That's the head of the Straight Blast gyms. She was training with some good BJJ ladies over there, some brown belts. Looks like she's mixing up her training there, Greg, and getting some good work in. Obviously, preparing herself for the Ultimate Fighter. What do you make of that, Greg?
Anything that can help, eh? Wherever she can go to just make a bit of an improvement, it's worth trying.
Yeah, because obviously I'm not too sure of the ladies what she's got at Straight Blast Gym Island, but obviously I think women need women to train with them, you know. Like, there's been rumours of Joanne Calderwood, you know, she fights men her size and whatnot, and beats fuck out of the new guys coming to the gym. Yeah. No, I don't know how good that is for women, to be honest with you, training with the guys, you know. Like, can you really learn from really getting overly dominated by a guy who's stronger and bigger than you? I don't think you can, you know. And if you're beating up on these new guys coming to the gym, that's just going to boost your confidence. You know, it might be good for getting you in shape and, you know, getting your speed and your timing down and whatnot, and, you know, getting your reflexes going. But now she's going over to Portland, Oregon. She's training with these brown belts, get some good rolling time in with some women her own size. I really like that, you know. I really do. Now, we can't take nothing away from Straight Blast Gym Island, but obviously you can only build a camp from what comes through your doors. Do you know what I mean, Greg?
Yeah. I think when you're saying that you need to train with women, I don't think you necessarily need to train with women. It probably does help. I think it's more that you need to train with people your own size. I think if she was training with bigger guys like Pendred or that, then you're not really going to get much from that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Pendred's always going to be too big and too strong. But if she's had a guy similar size, then possibly. And I think that's where Joanne Calderwood's okay, because like the top guys in her gym are all about her size anyway. Only a little. Most of them, I think, are 125, 135ers. So.
Could you imagine Cathal Pendred full mountain her? Like, what the fuck is she really going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've seen what he did to Che Mills up against the cage. Che Mills couldn't work his way back up hardly. And every time he did work his way back up, Cathal dumped him back on his ass.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So there's nothing fucking Asling Daly's going to learn from that. Yeah. There's really not.
There isn't. If somebody keeps putting your ass because they're bigger than you, you're not learning anything. You want to be fighting someone similar size to you so you know what you're going to be dealing with.
Now, sorry, Greg. This is really interesting. Now, apparently she's been going to see a sports psychologist. Now, we all know about GSP. He was one of the first guys from mixed martial arts to introduce this. What do you make of sports psychologist, Greg? You know what I mean? Is that good or a bad thing for a fighter, do you think?
I don't think it's bad. I know Conor McGregor uses one. I know that.
Yeah.
He often talks about visualization, which is one of the things a sports psychologist really drums into you. You've got to visualize the fight and how you're going to win it and what you're going to do and where you're going to. If you get into this situation, this is what I'm going to do. If I get into that situation, that's what I'm going to do. It's all about visualization. So in that respect, then going into a fight, feeling that you know exactly what you're going to do in any given situation and having it drummed into you by a sports psychologist can't be a bad thing, really. But you'd imagine your coaches should be able to do that for you anyway. But if they have the belief from seeing these people that it's improving them, then that's half the battle. It's giving the belief.
Now, looking at her record, Greg, and her experience, obviously I mentioned where she's been around Bellator, Invicta, Cage Rage, the lot. You know, she's fought some tough opponents, like we mentioned as well, Jessica Eye, Rosie Sexton. You know, she's even coming down in weight now. What impact do you think she can make in the TUF 20 tournament if she actually does make the house?
Well, the biggest thing, like, she retired from fighting, didn't she, when she lost to Katja Kankampa?
I think she took I don't know if she retired or took a break. I think she took like a year away. But obviously it could have been like a GSP retirement thing.
Yeah. I'm sure I remember her saying that she was quitting and then the Benitez fight was a comeback fight, but maybe I'm wrong. But the Kankampa fight's a good example of what I'm thinking, is that Kankampa is a strong wrestle-based fighter, and from what I remember from that fight, she was totally outgunned in that fight. Daly was. Now, Joanne Calderwood fought Kankampa in her last fight there.
Yeah.
And scraped out a decision. It was a close fight, but Calderwood did, in my opinion, she won the fight. Now, has Daly made enough changes to her game to be able to cope with a wrestler? Because Kankampa may be good, but she's not Carla Esparza, for example. So if she comes up against somebody like that, who, let's be honest, if she makes the house, the chances are Esparza's going to be matched up with someone like her to give her a good chance of winning. Because Esparza's bound to be, I would presume, she'll be one of the top 2 picks in the house. So she'll likely be tried to be matched up with someone quite early to give her an easier fight to get through to the next round.
Well, you're speaking of matching up, Greg. Sometimes when you go into the house, it's a lot of fights are picked off, obviously, you know, skill-wise, and, you know, will your style beat her style? Like you mentioned the wrestling, obviously. Is her wrestling up there with Carla Esparza's? No, but there's also another aspect. It's not liking somebody. Yeah. Apparently, she doesn't like Felice Herrig or Bec Rawlings. She mentioned that Felice is not a good fighter and is there for the wrong reasons. And obviously, she isn't happy about Bec Hyatt, you know, because of Bec Hyatt's record, 4-2 or something. And she said that she's fought pretty much nobody's. And she's a little bit upset that the UFC have signed Bec Hyatt and put her in before her, which I can see a point there. Can you see a point there, Greg?
Yeah, yes and no. I can see her point with it. But Daly's recent record is 1 win from 4. It's hard to say she deserves to be ahead of Bec.
Well, that's true. We always say that in mixed martial arts. It does help on your history, but your last fight or your last few fights are really your most important. Like Quinton Rampage Jackson, everyone was saying he's finished. Now look at him. He's on 2-fight win streak. You know, if he beats King Mo and he's in line for a title shot, fuck, he's resurrected his career again, hasn't he? You know, being talked about in the top 10 again.
Yeah. He was, to be fair with Rampage, he was probably never out the top 10. It's just he was never going to compete at the top 5, 6 anymore.
UFC was just badly matching him.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just can't cope with fighters like that anymore. But similarly, Daly, she lost the three fights she lost in a row was Rosie Sexton, Barb Honchak, and Kancampa. Now Honchak, didn't she just fight for the title at Invicta, or is she even the champion now?
Not too sure, Greg.
Yeah, she's the Invicta champion at 125 now, Honchak. So it's not as if she lost to people who were poor fighters. Rosie Sexton, another one she lost to, who, yes, she lost both her fights in the UFC, but she was fighting above her weight class. And Kancampa, who was unbeaten until Calder would beat her recently. So she wasn't losing to low-level talent. She was losing to good fighters. But does she deserve to be in ahead of Bec Rawlings? Rawlings is a name as well. It's not just about the fighting, it's about the name as well. And she was fighting for Invicta at the time. And it was easy to get a group of 115 girls from Invicta.
I think her style's sort of similar to Bec Rawlings, to be honest with you. They're both exciting. They like to bang.
They like to brawl a bit.
Yeah, I think they're very similar in a way. And
it'd be a good fight.
I'd fucking love to see that fight. That was the first fight on the episode 1. Fuck.
Yeah, it'd be a good fight.
I'll be tuning in. Well, do you think they should just put her in for that reason alone because she don't like him?
I think she's worth putting in for, I don't know, the Conor McGregor factor as much as anything, because the Irish thing seems to be working there just now.
Do you know what? He's pretty well in with the UFC. Do you think that helps?
I think it's going to help her. I think she'll probably make, if she has indeed tried out and went for it or is going to try out, I think she'll get in. She's got a solid record. There's no reason not to give her a fight to get in the house. There's no reason for that not to happen. So, and the fact that she trains with McGregor and Penrod and Fields and all these other guys who have been in the UFC or TUF recently, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't have her. There can't be many better.
I'm positive that some of these fighters have a bit of pull as well, you know. Oh. Like, I've seen in past seasons, like, this guy's from Forrest Griffin's camp when Forrest Griffin was the coach. Ross Pearson seems to be pulling a few strings. Yeah, with John Jones too.
So I think there is a bit of that as well. I think there's definitely a bit of that. So I'd not be surprised at all to find Daly in the TUF house.
So that's a thumbs up from you there, Greg, to have a compete on TUF 20.
Yeah, definitely a thumbs up.
And a thumbs up from me too, Aslan. So there you go, 2 thumbs up. Okay, that's a wrap for today's show. Be sure to check out MMAcrypt.com if you have time. From MMA Crypt Fighting Talk, thank you for watching.